But
How old were you when you started collecting movies?
about 12 and a half, 13. About 13, I think.
What was it that kicked it off?
Is that recording? I thought so, yeah. You're determined, aren't you? You're very determined. Which is good, really, isn't it?
Well, I got some good stuff that time when you was talking about Kubrick.
Yeah. What was I going to say?
When you first started, it must have been all
Well,
silent
when I
stuff.
started, I was 12 and a half. My mother used to give me 2 shillings a week, pocket money. And I went up to the newsagents, the top of the road, sweet shop, as you'd call it, newspapers, sweets, chocolate bars, and I bought a chewing gum. It was square with a piece of chewing gum inside it. And underneath the chewing gum was 4 frames of 35mm film. And when I got home with it, I tried to project it on the tiles of a fireplace. They were grey tiles, or beige coloured. And I got the torch off my bicycle and put the frame on the torch and showed it on the tiles. Although you got a picture, it wasn't completely in focus, but it was a picture of us all. And that's how I got interested in it. And then from there, I asked my mother to get me a projector, but she was very poor, she didn't have very much money. And what was I going to say? She got me an Ace, Pathyscope Ace, which was a hand crank. You had to turn the handle to make it go. And then we went to, then I wanted to join a film library when I was 13. But they wouldn't let me join. The Flesco, that's right, it was the Flesco Film Library. And it was by Els, not Els, oh God, Enfield. I think it was near Enfield, Garrett Lane. It's in Garrett Lane, on the corner, by the station. And I went with my mother. I had to go with my mother because she had to sign the forms because I was underage. I was only 13 or 13 and a half. And I had one of their catalogues and they had some fantastic silent titles in it, full features. And then they asked us some questions and they wanted to know what kind of projector that I had. And I said it was a hand-turned projector. And they said to my mother, "I'm sorry, but we can't let you join the library. We don't allow anybody with a hand-turned projector. It's got to be motorised." So they wouldn't let me join. And I was really disappointed. And when I got on the 220 from Garrett Lane to go home, I drove my mother crazy. And she got really annoyed with me. She said, "If I hear one more word about bloody projectors and films, I'll brain you." Anyway, I went home, and that was the beginning of it. Oh, and then I went to, there was a film library of 9.5mm, which the Ace projector showed, and it was in Shepherd's Bush, Goldhawk Road. And it was the Middleton Film Library. That's what it was called, but it was actually a chemist. And it was incorporated a film library with the chemist. And the man that run it, said that he never had much time to look after the films because they used to come with, you know, tears in them and splits. So I offered to repair them for him. And he said, well, if you can repair them, he said, examine the films, he said, I'll let you have them at half price. So I did that. And that's how I started. But some of the condition of the films were in terrible state. I remember hiring Faust, F.W. Mornay's film, a silent classic in 1926 with Elmer Jannings, and I hired that, and it was in terrible state. The sprocket holes was all torn and bitter, and I tried to repair it the best I could, which I did. Right. Well, I started at the ABC Broadway cinema as a trainee projectionist. When I started there, I was told to that I'd have to sweep floors and scrub floors and polish pipes and all sorts of clerical work I'd have to do, but I was not allowed to touch anything of the projectors in the projection room. Wasn't allowed. So there was one time when I actually looked through a porthole at the film and I was told off. You're not here to watch films, boy. You're here to polish and scrub, you know. In actual fact, I was used as a convenience, really, just to bloody well keep the place clean. I was a cleaner, basically. And there we are. But also that was haunted, that cinema. Very badly haunted. You see doors creak and crack and open and close, and no one was there. And I actually saw it for myself. But that is another story. This will continue on the next chapter. Stay tuned to this channel. Many more ghost stories to come.
Why didn't you ever go into film production?
Well, the actual making of films, I was never really that interested in it, to be quite honest. All I wanted to do is show films to the public. I wanted the reaction from other people.
When I was a kid, you got me a projector, and you said, I'll get you a camera, because you said you're going to be interested in that. And you were right. I did develop a keen interest.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
Why did you say that to me?
I don't know. Well, it's like any grown-up that. Well, because I thought that you had a lot of potential in regards film, and I had a feeling that you might be interested in it, and I just mentioned it, like any adult would say to a, because she was only a boy, wasn't he? He was only a young boy at the time, and well, you did, didn't you? I mean,
yeah.
you took it up.
Yeah.
But
that part of movie makers you gave me, I read them all the time.
yeah. Oh, I'll tell you one thing. Is it recording? I'll tell you one experience that I had. When I was 13, I went away with the school on holiday, and it was somewhere in Kent. It was somewhere near Deal in Kent, and it was a big complex, and it had a lot of rooms in it. It was like a bit like a boarding school, right? And we had dormitories, right? And the following day, the teacher took all the boys down to the local town in Deal, and there was a photography shop, and it had a Specto in the window, a 16mm silent Specto in the window. And I went into the shop with my friend, and there was a catalogue, there was a booklet about the Specto, which they let me have. And at night, I had a little torch. I took a tiny little torch with me. And at night time, I would put my knees up, shine this torch, because the lights went out in the dormitory about 7 or 8, I think it was. And I was so interested in this projector that I was shining the torch on the what's her name. And one of the other boys, right, said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" He said, "Well, look, I know what you're doing." He said, I'll do it for you if you want. I said, "No, I'm not doing anything like that." I said, "I'm looking at a catalogue." And John Taylor, one of the school friends, he said, "Will you two go to sleep?" That's actually a true story, yeah. He thought I was, you know.
Yeah, diagrams not necessary.
Yeah, and I said, "No, I got a catalogue." But I loved that projector, but I couldn't afford it. It was £52, or 50 quid I think it was. That was a lot of money then.
Well, I think it was in the 70s or early 80s. I was about 11 or 12. I was in St Austell, and I went into this projector shop, electronics. They used to sell projectors, and I said, "What's your cheapest Super 8 projector?" And the man was like quite surprised to see such a young kid interested. Yeah. And he said, he said to his mate, "What's one of those little ones?" And I think it was about 60 quid.
Yeah.
Which was much too expensive for myself and my family.
Yeah. But when talking about projectors, you're better off actually with a 35mm projector.
If you've got the room.
If you've got the room, yeah. For one thing, the projector themselves are made to last. And on top of that, they give a lot more support to the film when it's running in the film gate. You've got support either side, and you've got 2 lots of perforations either side. Whereas 16mm or standard 8 or Super 8 has only got 1 side perforation. But on 35 you haven't, so you've got more support, and you've got much more steadiness, and you've got much more support on the pressure plates, you know.
What about 70mm? I mean, did all the cinemas you worked in, did they all show 70mm?
No. Only certain cinemas could show it. It's mostly the West End that could show 70mm. Most of the suburbs ones had 35, you know. But in the West End, some of them had 70.
Because recently they've been re-kitting some cinemas for 70mm because they've been producing them.
That's right, they have, yeah. But they can show 70mm at the National Film Theatre, the BFI. I think it's number 1 cinema, which is the best cinema out of the 4, I think, or the 6, whatever. But they got Cinemecanica's 8s there, which are multi-purpose projector, 70 and 35.
What did you use at St Martin's Lane?
Cinemecanica, but they were Cinemecanica 8s, the same as the what's the name, the BFI. But
would you say that cinema was the best kitted out that you worked at?
What, St Martin's Lane?
Yeah.
No, it was it was a nice projection box. It wasn't cramped. It was very spacious, and projectors were reliable, you know, like all projectors were. But I have worked in a lot of cramped positions in projection box. Yeah.
I had assumed that they were all like St Martin's Lane.
No, they weren't. No, definitely not. Some were very tiny, the projection boxes.
The Haymarket was about the same size as St Martin's Lane, if I remember correctly.
No, actually, the Odeon Haymarket was more longer, wasn't it? Narrower. Whereas St Martin's Lane was more squarish, wasn't it? I think, if I remember rightly. But I have worked in a classic cinema that was very, very narrow. It was only half the size of the projection box that you saw at St Martin's Lane. Very small, yeah, very small.
For the sake of the viewers who didn't see it, how big would you say St Martin's Lane was, the projection room?
Well, I can't remember now, but it was, I don't know, I have no idea.
If I remember correctly, it was about 18 by 12.
It might have been, yeah, I can't remember now. I forget the details. But I always remember when I was at JC's Cinema in Baker Street, and they asked me to do relief work on my day off, to go, because they had a lot of cinemas around the West End, and they were news theatres. What they did, they showed a newsreel, a cartoon, a documentary, a Pathy pictorial, and 2 or 3 cartoons. The whole show was only an hour long, or just over an hour long. I had to show it 11 times a day, the same programme, yeah. Anyway, they sent me to one in Piccadilly, JT's in Piccadilly, and this little old man that run it, he said, "Hello," he said, I'm Arnold. He said, "Nice to meet you," he said. He said, "We're just going to do a changeover," he said. "I've got to go outside," he said. "Do you think you can do the changeover?" I said, "Yes, of course I can."
Pick up where you were at the,
Anyway, they sent me to do relief work at the JC's Cinema in Piccadilly. And there was a fella there called Arnold, and he said, "I'm just going to pop out for a minute," he said. And he said, "We're just coming up to a changeover." He said, "Do you think you could do the changeover for me, from one machine to the other?" And I said, "Yes, of course I can." I said, "You do what you want to do." And anyway, I waited for the changeover, Q dot, and as I stood there with my finger on the motor, ready to press the motor, start the projector, about 30 seconds before the changeover, that was all it was, I saw all this white, what I thought was white smoke coming up from the projector. And I thought, oh my God, what on earth is happening? So anyway, I thought I couldn't move, otherwise I'd have missed the changeover. So I'd done the changeover, right, rushed round the other side of the machine to see what it was, and it was a kettle boiling of water. And as I looked at it, Arnold came in. "Oh," he said, "you haven't made the tea yet then?" I said, "No, I have not." I said, "Give me a right turn."
Have you?
Yeah, some right bloody, especially independent cinemas, they were terrible. They'd never spend any money. They'd never spend any money on equipment. Even the auditoriums were dark, dismal, needed decorating, the screen was falling to bits. And that was the Granada Tooting. Well, it wasn't the Granada, I don't think it was called the Granada, it was the Esoldo Cinema in Tooting, which is still there, but I think it's a bingo club now or something. But oh, that place, it was terrible. I always remember turning up there one winter. It was winter time, and that's right, I went by motorbike. I had a small motorbike at the time. And I can't even remember the date now. Anyway, I went there and it was, I remember the day was freezing. And I went in the projection box and it was like an igloo. It was like ice. I'm not kidding you. It was freezing in there. It was absolutely freezing in there. And I started the projectors up. They had Kaylee 21 projectors. And they were so cold, the projectors, I had to let them run for a good 40 minutes, 45 minutes before they got, yeah. Otherwise they were too sluggish because they were so cold. And I found an electric fire in the back in a storeroom. It's an old-fashioned one with the element, you know. And I plugged that into the projection room. You're not allowed to really because it was red heat. And you're not allowed, you can have black heat apparently, but you can't have red heat. And known as my luck was, the district engineer came up there and said, "Are you all right, Ron?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, you shouldn't have that on." He said, "But I turned a blind eye to it." He said, "Because I know it's cold up here." That was Jim Carter. He was the district engineer for Isolde Cinemas. And he said, "I turned the blind." He said, "But if the fire officer comes up there, catch it," he said, "you'll be for it." So I had it on for a little while and then I switched it off. But the amazing thing was that the cinema was so cold inside, and yet the radiators were quite hot, but the cinema wasn't warming up. So I went down to the boiler house, and there's an old man down there, and I said, "Can't you get any more heat up down there?" "I'm doing my best," he says. So I came out of there, and there was a manageress there, and I said to her, "I can't understand why this cinema is not warming up, and yet the radiators were quite hot." So she said, "I forgot to tell you," she said, "there is a hole at the back of the screen in the roof," she said, "and that's why all the heat is escaping." So anyway, when we hit the screen at 2 o'clock, I can still remember the programme. It was called The Virgin Soldiers, with Howell Bennett, I think. And the people there was only about 50 people in there, and they were all sitting there with their hats and coats on because it was so cold in there. It was freezing in there. And that was my experience at the Isolde Tooting. So there you are.
I told you, didn't I, that I actually met a projectionist who was at the Tooting who verifies that story. He told me it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
He told me
Yeah.
about the hole behind the screen.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But the amazing thing about it was that always stood in my mind is the fact that the Kaylee 21s were really nice equipment. They had really nice equipment there. Yeah, their other cinemas, right, had crappy equipment there. You know, they had BTH super projectors, which weren't very good. But bloody, the one cinema where they had decent equipment, they never had it in one of their primary shows, you know? Best shows. Crazy. I always found that funny. In fact, I said that to Jim Carter, I think, at the time, the district engineer, circuit engineer. Amazing. But there you are.
Was there ever a time you got so interested in a movie that you forgot to change over?
I did it once, I believe, yeah. I did it once. Well, when I started as a trainee, they gave me a chance to change over, and I made a mess of it. And I went to the Odeon Acton. Babbies.
Baby? Wait. Baby? No.
Babbies. Babs.
Come on.
Babbies. Babby boos. Anyway, there we are. Oh well. Yeah. Oh yeah. Worked in some right dives at cinemas. God.
Can you move your hand because the light's hitting and I like the light hitting your face.
Yeah. Anyway, there we are. That's another story. Hello.
You've led a fascinating life, haven't you?
Oh yeah, marvellous. Yeah. Yeah,
Baby, hey! Stop it!
come on, babbies.
No! No! Come on, lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Come on, lay down.
Anyway, yeah, that's right. So,
So tell us, what kind of woman would you like to meet?
oh God. Well, we won't go into that, I don't think.
You don't want us to go on Dateline then?
No. I wonder how that's getting on. Oh no, it's finished now, isn't it? All
I
old
think they
news
must
now.
have taken you off for not answering all those emails.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mind you, they do.
I think they're all old pictures though that are on there.
Well, yours will be old now.
No, I mean those photographs of women.
Yeah.
They're all old, I think. I don't think they were current ones because they look a lot younger than they said they were.
Well, it depends on the person, how honest they are, doesn't it?
Well, if they got a good makeup artist, that's the answer to it all. Is having a good makeup artist. And do you know one? Brad.
Well, I don't need to do. I mean, you can do it on the computer. You don't need to makeup artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe so. I don't know. But there we are. Anyway, I think you've got enough, haven't you? I think I've earned my money.